Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Sparks. I'm the president of Canberra Repertory Society, and this is Antonia Kitzel. She is the vice president. We're here to welcome you tonight to the launch of our 2021 season. It's so exciting. It's so exciting. We have a very exciting program for you tonight. We're not going to waffle on. We're just going to get straight into it. We'll be doing alternating the presentations, the introductions. So first, I will hand over. Oh, actually, and each of you should have got a ticket for a lucky prize draw. That'll be at the end. So make sure you have that handy whenever it comes to the time. And I will now hand over to Antonia to introduce the first director.
Welcome, everybody. Well, you might have heard through various grapevines what our first show of the next season is. Because it is Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And surprise, I know, nobody knew, all right? But I have the director here for you, Anne Selms, who will tell us a little bit about it.
Good evening all. I'd just like to start off by saying that I have great admiration for Rep and the way they've handled the COVID crisis and the way in which they've brought theatre back to all of us who are so passionate about what we do. They've given us all hope and heart, and I've just felt that as an audience member coming in here and sitting through a couple of shows that I've seen already this year, it's been fantastic the way they've guided us all in and made us all feel very safe and secure in this environment. In Tennessee Williams' Pulitzer Prize-winning Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, the dysfunctional but wealthy Pollitt family gathers to celebrate an ageing patriarch, Big Daddy's birthday. But there's more to this gathering than a family reunion. Big Daddy, unbeknown to him, is dying of cancer. He has to decide which of his sons will inherit the estate. His options include his favourite son, Brick, who drinks himself into oblivion in order to escape the desires of his determined wife, Maggie, or his less favoured son, Gooper, his fertile wife, May, and their no-neck monster children. While sensuous Maggie, the cat, tries to work her wiles to secure a future for them, Brick spirals deeper into despair, crippled by both physical pain and emotional loss. Lurking under every practice interaction between the Pollitts is an ulterior motive. Under every smile, a challenge. Under every statement, the spectre of mendacity. For the Pollitts, the truth is as hazy as the late summer sun in the Mississippi, and sometimes the only way to find its journey is through lies. What a delicious lot of characters Tennessee Williams has given actors to play with in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. The play drips with emotional drama, exploring the ideas around truth, mendacity and deception. For me, the characters are trapped by their own human frailties, driven by greed, sexual repression, lack of communication and outright cruelty, which leads to deception, delusion and lies. Nothing is private in this household, and eavesdropping is a favourite pastime. By listening to private conversations, the characters arm themselves with ammunition for plotting and planning others' demise. I would love you to join me on this journey to bring this iconic piece of American theatre to the stage. I know I've heard and seen the word bucket list on many an email and in comment, and it's great when holding conversations to see people's eyes light up at the very thought of playing one of these great characters. Being first cab off the rank, auditions are on the 31st of October and the 1st of November. Saturday's pretty busy, but there's a few spots left. But there's time on Sunday, so come and join us and strut your stuff.
Thank you, Anne, for that little-known play that's going to be, good luck with getting people to come out and audition. I really hope you find the right people. Sorry, everyone in the room knows that I love this play, and that I'm one of those actors that would give their eye teeth to do a certain role in the play. So we'll see, we'll give it a go. The second play of Cosy. Unfortunately, Sophie can't be with us tonight in person, but she is with us virtually. She is finishing her directing course at NIDA, so we will be her first gig after her NIDA training. She's doing a master's in directing at NIDA. So if with that, I'll just hand over to Sophie.
Hello, my name's Sophie Benassi, and I have the pleasure of directing Cosy by Louis Nowra. Cosy is a heartwarming and hilarious Australian comedy set in a mental health facility. Cosy is a play about friendship, romance, community, and difference. It's 1971, and it's the Vietnam War. However, inside the hospital, Hello, my name's Sophie Benassi, and I have the pleasure of directing Cosy by Louis Nowra. Cosy is a heartwarming and hilarious Australian comedy set in a mental health facility. Cosy is a play about friendship, romance, community, and difference. It's 1971, and Australia is protesting the Vietnam War. However, inside the hospital, the patients are listening to Mozart, learning their lines, and occasionally skipping their medication. It's art, it's mayhem, and it's a wonderful roller coaster right up until opening night. And the icing on the cake about this piece is the fact that the playwright Louis Nowra himself actually directed a musical in a mental health facility in Melbourne. This one-off performance brought joy and delight to everybody involved. And I think this show will do much the same thing. Auditions are being held in the last week of January, and the show goes on in April. I think that this show, with its cast of lovable characters, really offers a touching reminder of how art can make our spirits soar. With the year that we've had, I think Cosy is exactly what the doctor has ordered.
The third play of next season will be directed by Ed Whiteman, and the title is Rope. And here to tell you more about it, Ed.
So on May the 21st of 1924, Nathan Leopold Jr. and Richard Albert Loeb, two highly intelligent and wealthy university students from Chicago, abducted and murdered a 14-year-old neighbour, hitting him with a chisel before choking him by putting a sock in his mouth. Cheery play. The only motive for this killing was sheer vanity at the thought of committing the perfect crime, along with a conviction by the killers that they were superior beings to whom the laws of humankind did not pertain. The Leopold and Loeb case, which at the time was characterised as being the crime of the century, very sensational it was, is the inspiration for Patrick Hamilton's 1929 play called Rope. And Rope was Hamilton's first play, which I hadn't realised. He'd only written novels up until that point. And it was also his first big success. One of his later successes was the play Gaslight, which you may have heard of, which potentially Rep's done in the past. I'm not too sure. Should do in the future. It's great. And the play opened in London's West End on the 25th of April 1929, and it ran for 6 months. It opened in Broadway in the same year, for which it was retitled Rope's End for some reason. And it is a play that continues to be revived often. There was a very well-reviewed production at London's Almeida Theatre in 2009, and I actually saw an excellent production in Sydney in 2011, which was directed by Ian Sinclair. And of course, I I guess you can't talk about Rope without mentioning Alfred Hitchcock's film version starring James Stewart, which I'm sure many of you have seen, and as many of you probably know, was famously shot to appear as though it was all filmed in a single take, as the play takes place in one location across a continuous period of time. What I didn't know is that when it was released in 1948, Rope was considered Hitchcock's most controversial film to date, and it was banned by several American cinemas. There are, it should be said though, several differences, quite significant differences between the film and the play, not the least of which is the transposing of the setting from London to New York. So the play is set in one location, as I was saying. It's a room of a luxuriously furnished, a very wealthy house in Mayfair in London. Two university students have murdered a fellow student and hidden his body in a chest in the room. It's not a spoiler, it happens in the very first moment of the play. They proceed to host a dinner party for the victim's friends and family, at which the locked chest is used to serve a buffet. After the party, one of the guests, a former professor of the students, returns, suspicious that something is amiss, and so a game of cat and mouse begins between the professor and the increasingly panic-stricken murderers. So the play is a superb take on the suspense thriller genre. Hamilton said he set out to write just a pure suspenseful play, but it's certainly not a whodunit, it's a will they get away with it. Hamilton does a superb job of maintaining tension throughout the play. We're aware of the crime from the very first moment, and we're on the edge of our seats as we see this audacious and horrifying evening take place. And we do not know whether or not the murderers will get away with their crime or what they might do if the body is discovered. It should be said, though, that Hamilton manages to create characters, though, who are far more than just stereotypes of the suspense or thriller genre, especially in his portrayal, a really superb portrayal of the central character of Rupert Cadell, who is the poet and professor who attends the dinner party, and he's also a wounded World War I veteran, and is also the professor who introduced the murderers to the philosophy of Nietzsche, which they have distorted to justify their horrendous crime. So it's actually a play that invites you to consider questions of morality as well as keeps you on the edge of your seat. So it's a play that's kind of been on my want-to-do list for a long time. I'm actually a huge Hitchcock buff, which is how I kind of discovered the play in the first place. So I'm super excited about directing this play for Rep. I think it's a fantastic fit. And even though this play was written, nearly a century ago, I think you'll be amazed at how, I guess it does. It still feels kind of, I guess because the thriller suspense genre, we're so familiar with it, it's still incredibly popular today, so it still feels very resonant. And it's suspenseful, it's provocative, it's also blackly comic, and it really deserves to be revived. So I'm thrilled Rep's chosen to include it in its 2021 season, and I'll be directing it, and I hope you'll all come along to watch wealthy, entitled people acting appallingly, and to find out whether or not it is possible to commit the perfect crime.
Thank you for that, Ed. Our fourth play is also a play that you may know about, because we were planning to do it before we had our annus coviditis. And we have a lovely return of director Tony Llewellyn-Jones for The Governor's Family. Tony.
It's great to be back, and hello ladies and gentlemen back at home looking on your screens of whatever size. We have half a house and we wish you well. Well, may we say, God save the Queen, for nothing will save Governor Mountgarrett, or his foreign wife, who has been driven to drugs. As for his son and daughter, well, they might go on and do something useful, maybe in 20th century Sydney. Certainly the native-born and adopted pod most definitely will do something useful, but we never find out in Beatrix Christian's wonderful play. She asks us to come through the front door of Government House in Sydney in 1897. Occasionally the back door, even the garden, and witness a family on the edge of an abyss as it struggles with responsibility and duty. We cannot wait to get it up on its feet, even if a year later. In Andrew Kay's setting, under Chris Ellard's lights, dressed by Anna Senior, sound design by Neville Pye, props, there are a lot of props, by Yanina Clifton, one armament, courtesy of Neil MacLeod, and the ship safely steered by the stage manager of stage managers, Dot Russell. Russell, even though at the moment we don't need any walls, any stairs, any windows, we will still need your advice, I promise you. There will be. And anyway, Alex Pelvin and Malcolm Houston and Liz DeTott will keep an eye on me and try and keep me to my schedule. The cast, already selected: Peter Holland, Antonia Kitzel, Caitlin Baker, Robbie Holtoner, Kiara Tompkins, and Joel Horwood, will be just as important, as crucial as any of the other co-creatives, because all of us here know full well that theatre is a group activity, a cooperative exercise, particularly at the mighty Rep. Many thanks to the Rep Council for recommitting to the Governor's family. After the pandemic struck, we had a sinking feeling that it might have to be struck off the list for 2021, but a lot of work had gone into preparations this time last year. But here we are again, groundhogs all. For those of you who have not read the play or heard anything about it, be warned, it is confronting, shocking, instructive, pastoral, comical, tragical, historical. And that's only on the page. It is a tragedy, a comedy, a history, a pastoral, pastoral comical, historical pastoral, tragical historical, tragical comical historical pastoral. Indivisible. We can't wait to breathe new life into Beatrix Christian's underproduced play. It deserves to be seen again after far too long, especially in Canberra, where Yarralumla remains a ghostly reminder of what is the ultimate authority in this wide brown land. Please join us next winter in this magical space to witness how the Governor's family deals with itself and its place in a world they try to understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. Our fifth show next year is a very exciting one. It will be directed by Kate Cleland, and it is called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. And here to tell us about it, Kate. Where is she? There.
It's really nice to be back here. I am actually really very pleased and proud to be directing this great play. It's well loved, wildly too, I suppose. Admired play, clever, funny, sad, thought-provoking and puzzling. Everything a good play should be. Based on the all-time classic Shakespearean play Hamlet, Rosengil, which is what it gets to be called, first performed in 1966, so it's a long time ago now, is now a classic in its own right. So I'm kind of getting to do two classics. Wikipedia, which you have to look up, tells me that the play is an absurdist existential tragic comedy, which is exactly true, and I could tell that by reading it. But that doesn't really tell us what it's about the play on stage. On our stage, we get to see what characters do when they are not on their stage, delivering their lines, if that makes any sense. It's a puzzling play. The play takes two very minor characters from the play Hamlet and turns them into the focus of the new play. Because they're only minor characters in Hamlet, they're not at all developed, and their view of things is quite limited, so there's a lot to fill in. The poor things wander through a theatrical twilight world, lost and perplexed, trying so hard to make sense of the weird world that they find themselves in, but they're unable to do so because they just don't have enough information. That sounds familiar. My world is often like that. But, like me, they do try very hard. With each new thing that happens to them, mostly scenes from Hamlet or a meeting with other characters, they try to figure things out, but they don't know the rules, and they struggle with the illogic of the whole thing. And they struggle with forces they have no control over. And the strongest of those forces, is fate. Because in the end, their fate is already written. Yeah, I knew that would happen. In Shakespeare's lines, something about fate does it to me. Their fate is already written for them, and there's nothing that they can do about it. And nobody can change what happens in Hamlet. Rosengil's wanderings are interspersed with scenes directly from Hamlet, as I'm sure you know already, but they're lovely big chunks of the original play, so we get to exercise our Shakespearean muscles as well as doing a modern play. Problem is, after each chunk, poor old Rosengil have to work out what just happened and try to analyse what it means. Usually not much. This all sounds pretty hopeless and depressing, although I'm glad you're smiling. But it's actually quite funny, I promise. Samuel Beckett is famous for that quotation, "Nothing is funnier than unhappiness." And maybe it's true. The play is also very clever, and I like clever. Typically so for Stoppard, the ideas are like intellectual gymnastics. I couldn't find a better expression. I'm sure you'll find one. And the dialogue, especially between Rosengil and the player, is witty and clever and pretty fast-paced. The play needs a range of actors and acting styles. Those who love Shakespeare, those who love words, as well as those who can move, dance, sing, juggle, stand on their head. Sound like you? I do hope you will be tempted to audition for what I'm sure will be a great experience, because it's a really, really good play. And if you don't feel like being in the play, please come and see it. Remember, clever, funny, sad, and thought-provoking. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. For our sixth scintillating show, try saying that 3 times fast, we have a first-time director to rep with a show that we've not done here in, I believe, many, many years. Alex Pelvin is going to direct Hotel Sorrento, and to tell us about that, Alexandra.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be doing Hotel Sorrento for Canberra Rep. It's a beautiful, beautiful Australian classic by Hannie Rayson. It's the story of 3 sisters, the Moynahans, who come together after 10 years separated across the globe. Meg, who's been working as a writer in London, Pippa, who's been a high-flying executive in New York, and Hill, who has stayed in the family home to care for her husband and her teenage son after the death of her father and her teenage son after the death of her husband. as with all families, there's a lot of tensions, lifetimes worth of tensions, and these come to the fore when the sisters reunite for two reasons. One is the sudden death of their father, and the other is a book that Meg has written that has been nominated for the Booker Award, which appears to be a little bit semi-autobiographical. So this brings out all sorts of issues with the family, and it provides the play with a beautiful range of things to explore. Things like memory and stories, and who has the definitive version, and who gets to tell the story. On top of that, it's all these themes of betrayal and trust and memory and stories all play out against a broader question of national identity and the place of culture within it. And this play was first staged in 1991, and I have read that Hanny Rayson has said that she feels like that broader question might be a little dated, but I don't agree. I think we're still finding our way to marry our cultural identity and our national identity. And so this is one of the reasons I was really, really excited to have the opportunity to direct this play. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. The final show of the season will be directed by Liz Bradley, who will be coming back to give us Sense and Sensibility.
Good, thank you. And thanks to Rep for giving me this wonderful job. Last but not least, Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. What a treat. That, in fact, was the first novel published for her. There's no point me going into the story, we all know it. Basically, the Dashwood sisters' fortunes and misfortunes. The adaptation that I'll be doing is a Kate Hamill adaptation, American Lass. It's a very, very clever adaptation. There is no loss of style or speech, the way people speak, language, but it has lots of movement and theatrical devices, and it chronicles the social values of the time very, very cleverly. I also like clever. Ultimately, it's a colourful love story to lift the spirits, and it will be beautiful and colourful and a lot of movement and fun, and that's just what we want at the end of the year. So come in your droves, please.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you to Anne and Sophie and Ed and Tony and Kate and Alexandra as well. I think it's a very exciting season. I will invite you to, when you leave, to pick up a copy of the program on your way out. The brochure this year is a little bit different. We've made it so that you'll have a little bit of information about all the shows. You'll also have an order form for picking up, for placing an order for what you like. Then on the back there's a very handy little sort of everything in one place for the back of the fridge, information about the seats and all that stuff. And as I like to say, you can play it at weddings. Now it's time for the Lucky Door Prize and barrels. Okay. I'll draw and call because I don't have a ticket in it. So. E14. It's on your ticket, not your seat. On your ticket. Is it you? Come in, yay! Okie dokie. Do that? And you wanna take it up? Yeah. Congratulations. Well done. It doesn't matter. also some lollies, some champagne, and some face masks. So everything you need to come to Rep. Thank you all very much. Do pick up a copy of the brochure, have a drink, and join us. Come see the next show, which is Absurd Person Singular. We actually have a little promo, I believe. Do we? Oh, it's just okay. It's this. Yes, it's the poster. It's the poster by our very own Aaron McKenna. So please do come. It's hilarious. 6 people over 3 Christmases in England. It's everything that can go wrong does go wrong. It's hilariously funny and a little bit morbid. So perfect way to end this year. So come along and see it. Thank you all. Good night. And don't forget, all the stuff behind us is on the stage for Rep Retro, our retro sale, which closes tomorrow. So please come from 10 to 5. 11 to 3. 11 to 3. I'm just the president. I don't work here.